The Krell warband had learned to fear many things in their centuries of raiding across the outer reaches. They feared the void itself, the cold mathematics of orbital mechanics that could send a ship spiraling into a star. They feared the automated defense networks of the core worlds, those ancient killing machines that never slept and never forgot. But they had never learned to fear humans. That was their mistake. Kira watched through the scope of her railgun as the Krell dropship descended toward the Villani settlement. The agricultural colony had no defenses, no militia, nothing but farmers trying to coax crops from alien soil. The Villani were a peaceful species, bipedal mammals covered in soft gray fur, with large eyes adapted for their home world's dim red sun. They had been part of the galactic community for 800 years and had never raised a weapon in anger. David, you seeing this? Kira's voice was calm, professional. They had been partners for 3 years, ever since the Mars Defense Academy had paired them for deep space reconnaissance. Their ship, the Wandering Star, was technically a survey vessel. Technically. I see it. David's voice came through her comm bead, equally controlled. 37 heat signatures. Standard Krell raiding party. They'll hit the settlement, take what they can carry, burn the rest. Not today. Kira was already moving, magnetic boots carrying her across the hull of their ship toward the deployment bay. The Wandering Star hung in low orbit, invisible to the Krell's primitive sensors, wrapped in stealth fields that bent light and radiation around its hull. The galactic community had rules about interference, non-intervention protocols, prime directives, and cultural contamination clauses. Humanity had signed those treaties, had agreed to abide by those rules. But humanity had also learned something during their short, violent history. Some rules were made to be broken. David was already in the drop pod when Kira arrived, his assault frame locked and loaded. The mechanized armor made him look like a small tank, bristling with weapons and sensor arrays. Kira's own frame was lighter, built for speed and precision rather than raw firepower. 30 seconds to impact, David said, running final systems checks. We go loud. We go quiet. Kira's fingers danced across her wrist computer, pulling up tactical overlays. Hit them fast, hit them hard. No survivors to report back. The pod launched, a silent arrow dropping through the atmosphere. No engines, no thrust signature, just gravity and carefully calculated ballistics. The Krell wouldn't know they were coming until it was too late to eye in the settlement below. A Villani cub named Sela was playing near the communal storage facility when the sky split open and the Krell descended. She had never seen violence before. Her species had evolved past such things millennia ago. The concept of deliberate harm was something she had only read about in historical texts. The Krell raiders were 2 meters tall, reptilian, with scales like armor plate and teeth designed for tearing meat. They moved through the settlement like a plague, weapons firing, buildings burning. The adult Villani fled or froze, their minds unable to process the reality of predation. Sela ran, but her legs were short and the Krell were fast. A clawed hand caught her scruff, lifted her off the ground. She whimpered, a high-pitched sound of pure terror. The Krell who held her was called Thrak, and he had participated in 47 raids across 9 systems. He had killed hundreds, stolen millions in credits and cargo. He pressed his combat knife against the cub's throat, not because he needed to, but because he enjoyed the fear in her eyes. He never saw Kira coming. The human moved like liquid death, covering 50 meters in 3 seconds. Her frame's servos were nearly silent, its footfalls barely whispers against the packed earth. She had drawn her own blade during the approach, a monomolecular edge that could split atoms. Thrak's reptilian brain registered movement in his peripheral vision. He started to turn, started to press the knife down, started to end the cub's life out of pure spite. The human blade entered through the base of his skull and exited through his right eye socket. Kira had calculated the angle perfectly, the force precisely calibrated. The knife severed Thrak's spinal cord and destroyed his brain stem in a single motion that took less than 1/10 of a second. The Krell raider was dead before his own blade could move a millimeter. Sela fell as the corpse released her. Kira caught the cub with her free hand, setting her gently on the ground. "Run," she said in perfect Villani, her translator rendering the word in their whistling language. "Hide." The cub ran. The rest of the Krell warband died in the next 90 seconds. David's heavy weapons turned their dropship into slag and shrapnel. Kira moved through their ranks like a ghost, her blade drinking blood, her railgun making impossible shots. The Krell had armor, they had numbers, they had centuries of raiding experience. The IT wasn't enough. Humans had only been in space for 200 years, but they had spent 10,000 years before that learning how to kill each other. Every war, every conflict, every act of violence had been cataloged, studied, refined. Humanity had taken the art of warfare and elevated it to a science. The galactic community didn't understand humans. They saw a young species, barely out of their gravity well, playing at being explorers. They didn't understand that humanity had been forged in fire, that every human carried the genetic memory of predators and prey, of hunters and hunted. When the last Krell fell, Kira stood in the center of the settlement, breathing hard, her armor painted with alien blood. The Villani emerged from hiding, their large eyes even wider with shock. "You killed them," one elder said, his voice trembling. "You how?" David landed beside Kira, his heavy frame making the ground shake. "We're human," he said simply, as if that explained everything that IT did. The wandering star left orbit an hour later, after ensuring the Villani could salvage the Krell technology and defend themselves against future raids. There would be no official report, no mention in the logs. The galactic community would never know humans had intervened, but the Krell would know. The survivors of Thrax Warband, the ones who had stayed with their ship, had watched through remote feeds. They had seen what humans could do when threatened, when children were in danger, when someone drew a knife. Word would spread through the raiding clans. A new rule would be added to their ancient codes: never threaten the young in front of humans. Never make them choose between law and justice. Because humans would choose justice every time, and they would make that choice faster than a knife could fall. In her quarters, Kira cleaned her blade and thought about Sela's frightened eyes. Some rules were worth breaking. Some lines had to be drawn. Humanity had signed treaties, yes. But humanity had also drawn a line in the stars. Harm the innocent, and humans would find you. Break their laws, bend their rules, but cross that line. Then you would learn why humanity's battle cry echoed across the galaxy. Why even the oldest species whispered the phrase with equal parts fear and respect.